Hello, everybody. I'd like to give everybody a warm welcome out there. As you know, my name is Renee, and you're watching my Health Corner. Believe it or not, God really does care about your health. Last year, just about anywhere you look, sickness and disease were on the rise. In the United States alone, someone had a heart attack every 40 seconds, and 1.4 million Americans were diagnosed with diabetes. 1 in 2 people got cancer, and it was estimated there would be 1.9 million new cancer cases diagnosed, and there were 609,360 cancer deaths last year in the United States alone. There's also a rise in the number of strokes per year, gastrointestinal problems, arthritic conditions, lung conditions, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and a host of many other diseases. The question is, why? Well, many people believe that God is to blame, but is that really the case? In the Bible, in 3 John verse 2, it says God wants us to prosper and to be in health. So if he wants us to be in health, why is disease more rampant now than ever before? What's the problem? Well, there's a lot of laws known as natural laws, and when we neglect those laws, the result is sickness and disease. And over a period of time of neglecting those laws, it can even get more severe, and things like cancer can be set in. Well, last time I talked on the importance of eating fruits and vegetables, dealing mainly with vegetables, and today I'm going to be talking about the true medical missionary work. And I'm going to get started. So the first quote is from Medical Missionary, and we are now medical ministry, we are now to unify, and by true medical missionary work, prepare the way for our coming King. Let us increase in the knowledge of the truth. And then page 19 says, in a special sense, Seventh-day Adventists have been set in the world as watchmen and light bearers. To them has been entrusted the last warning for a perishing world. They've been given a work of the most solemn import, the proclamation of the first, second, and third angels' messages. There's no other work of so great importance. They are to allow nothing else to absorb their attention. And then 10 manuscript release, page 314 says, the truth for this time, the third angel's message, is to be proclaimed with a loud voice, meaning with increasing power, as we approach the great final test. This test must come to the churches in connection with the true medical missionary work. And then 9T177, that which is of the most importance is that the students be taught how to represent aright the principles of health reform. And then HL 19 paragraph 5 says it is the duty of every person to become intelligent in regard to disease and its causes. And Counsels on Health, page 506 says, as religious aggression subverts the liberties of our nation, those who would stand for freedom of conscience will be placed in unfavorable positions. For their own sake, they should, while they have the opportunity, become intelligent in regard to disease, its causes, prevention, and cure. And then another one for medical ministry is those who go forth to engage in the work of the ministry must be intelligent upon the subject of health reform. And that's page 238. But why? Because Counsels on Health tells us strange things have been done in the medical missionary work of late. And then it says in CD 200, many have misinterpreted health reform and have received perverted ideas of what constitutes right living. The Lord has marked out a way for us to do this work. And we're told in medical ministry, again, the Lord has marked out a way in which his people are to carry forward a work of physical healing. We don't need to go to the world for our health information either. We're told in LS 322, the world is not to be our criterion. Let the Lord's voice be heard. And then Early Writings 124 says, the different parts of professed Advent believers have each a little truth. But God has given all these truths to his children who are being prepared for the day of God. He has also given them truths that none of these parties know, neither will they understand. If God has any new light to communicate, he will let his chosen and beloved understand it without their going to have their minds enlightened by hearing those who are in darkness and error. And then 3SM83 says, men may get up scheme after scheme, and the enemy will seek to seduce souls from the truth. But all who believe that the Lord has spoken through Sister White and has given her a message will be safe from the many delusions that will come in these last days. And I'm telling you, there are many delusions, that's for sure. 8T298 says we must follow the directions given through the spirit of prophecy. This will save us from accepting strong delusions. God has spoken to us through the testimonies to the church and through the books that have helped to make plain our present day. And then LS again, page 322. Excuse me, I lost my place. For some reason, I jumped on a different page. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it's because there's no light in them. And that's Isaiah 8:20. And then again, the world is not to be the criterion, and let the voice of the Lord be heard. So we want to hear God's voice, not the world's. If the world tells us to do something that's contrary to the spirit of prophecy, then we need to ignore it. 4T391 says, many are going directly contrary to the light which God has given, because they don't read the books which contain the light and knowledge, in cautions, reproofs, and warnings. And that's so true. I hear other people say things to do that is totally against our message. We have to stick with what God has given us, and we'll be safe. CTBH 111 says, God has placed it in our power to obtain a knowledge of the laws of health. Those who refuse to improve the light knowledge that have been mercifully placed within their reach are placing themselves where they will be exposed to the delusions of Satan. We can learn this quickly too, because we're told in early writings, page 67, ye must step fast. Now time is almost finished, and what we have been years learning, they will have to learn in a few months. They will also have much to unlearn and much to learn again. And then PC 38 paragraph 7 says, there are those who with a few months instruction would be prepared to go out and do acceptable medical missionary work. Well, how are they to learn? Again, medical ministry says few can take a course of training in our medical institutions, but all can study our health literature and become intelligent on this important subject. And you can download the app for free. You can read it online for free, so we don't have any excuse. But which books are we to read? Well, we have How to Live, Ministry of Healing, Christian Temperance and Bible Hygiene, Counsels on Diet and Foods, Counsels on Health, Healthful Living, Temperance, Medical Ministry, Loma Linda Messages, Mind, Character, and Personality. There's some in part 1 and part 2, A Call to Medical Evangelism. There's Health Reformer articles and the Paulson Collection. So there's a lot of information right there and a lot of reading. And we're told in 3MR paragraph 2, page 363, 50 times as much might be accomplished in self-education. Education of self means more than the colleges can give you. That's a powerful quote. So we don't need to go to college. We don't need to go to any kind of special training. All we have to do is read our books that the Lord gave us through Sister White. So now I'm going to go through some examples of some of the delusions that have been brought into the medical missionary work. Number 1 is the treatment of the rectum. And the quotes in LLM 178 says, there are men who make a specialty of treating the rectum, and some feel that they have been greatly benefited. But I have been instructed that this statement, as well as many surgical operations, leaves with many a serious weakness. Now, this doesn't mean you can't give an occasional enema for emergency purposes, but the regular enemas and colonics are a no-no according to the spirit of prophecy. We can't be doing this stuff day after day and all the time. Number 2, excuse me, eating coarse vegetables. Education, page 204, paragraph 3 says, in the study of hygiene, students should be taught the nutrient value of different foods, the effect of a concentrated and stimulating diet. Also, of foods deficient in the elements of nutrition should be made plain. Tea and coffee, fine flour bread, pickles, coarse vegetables, candies, condiments, and pastries fail of supplying proper nutriment. Many a student has broken down as a result of using such foods. 1T, page 680, now, paragraph 1 says, during the last 7 months, we have been at home for about 4 weeks. In our travels, we have sat at many different tables from Iowa all the way to Maine. Some whom we have visited live up to the best life they have, and others who have the same opportunities of learning to live healthily and well have hardly taken the first steps in reform. They will tell you they don't know how to cook in this new way, but they're without excuse in this matter of cooking, for in the work, she's talking about the book now, How to Live, that's the very first health book, are many excellent recipes, and this work is within the reach of all. And I'm going to post below a link where you can read that book for free because it's out of print. I do not say that the system of cookery taught in that book is perfect, she says. I may soon furnish a small work more to my mind in some respects, but she never did, sadly. Continuing on with the quote, but How to Live teaches cookery almost infinitely in advance of what the traveler will often meet, even among some Seventh-day Adventists. So below will be the link, as I said, and in that book, we're taught that all of our vegetables are to be cooked until tender, and the time to cook each vegetable is given too. Now, Ella Kellogg's book, Science in the Kitchen, which was used in our SDA college back in Sister White's day, you can go on the CD-ROM and type in the name of that book in the Pioneer section, and this is what it says about raw vegetables. Excuse me. Vegetables should be cooked until they are perfectly tender, but not overdone. We don't want them mushy. Many cooks spoil their vegetables by cooking them too long, while quote, as many more serve them in an underdone state to preserve their form. Either plan makes them less palatable and likely to be indigestible. I think I misread that. While many more serve them in an underdone state. I don't know why that word quote got in there, but that doesn't belong there. So anyway, I will have a link for that too. And then we're told in the Pioneer Writings, albumin of vegetable origin is better when cooked, and that's E.J. Wagner. And now here's some information from Dr. Mayor Kellogg and his younger brother, John Harvey Kellogg. Both were very prominent figures in the SDA church back in the day. So I'm going to post an article on how vegetables should be cooked, and then from Dr. Merritt Kellogg, you can read 2 selected messages, 295, paragraph 2, and 20 manuscript release, 158, paragraph 4, and you can see that Sister White endorses this doctor. He's the older brother of John Harvey Kellogg. So the diet for the sick, per Dr. Kellogg, says food for the sick should be nutritious, easy of digestion, and free from oily or fatty substances. The following articles should be religiously abstained from: pork, fats, butter, salted or smoked meats, and in many cases all kinds of meats, salt fish and most kinds of fresh fish, lobsters, clams, oysters, rich gravies, greasy soups, mustard, pepper, spices, and all kinds of vinegar, pickles, raw vegetables of all kinds, cheese, rich pastry and puddings, oily nuts, tea, coffee, condiments of every kind, rich preserves, hard-boiled eggs, fried food of all kinds, distilled and fermented liquors of every kind, and whatever else impairs or injures digestion. So then I'm going to post a quote what Dr. John Harvey Kellogg said on this subject, and the book is called The Home Handbook, and it was written by Dr. John Harvey Kellogg, and the book was endorsed by Sister White, and she was urging him to publish more for all the people to read. You can see the Crest Collection, page 89, paragraph 4 through 90, paragraph 1. On page 283, he says raw food and food which is insufficiently cooked is a frequent cause of indigestion. This is especially true of uncooked vegetables. Page 283, paragraph 3. And you know what? Medical science is now saying the exact same thing. I'm going to post a link below where you can read about it. And another link says, I'm a doctor, and here's why I want you to stop eating raw vegetables and drinking cold water. And if you click on that link, it'll take you to an article, and I'll have that posted. Now, I don't agree with everything that the above research says, but the part where they talk about eating raw vegetables, and they both say that eating them is bad on digestion. And that's exactly what our pioneers and both doctors, Merritt and Kellogg, and his younger brother, John Harvey Kellogg, said, and it all lines up with what the prophet says too. Now look at this quote he makes in his book called Diarrhea. Medical writers give us 7 varieties of this disease, but as such a division will only tend to confuse the mind of the nurse, the disease will be described as a unit. The cause, overeating and the use of improper food such as unripe fruit, raw vegetables, sausage, pork, veal, excessive quantities of meat of any kind. And then something that's important to know is that 70 to 80% of our immune system is in our GI tract, our digestive tract. And if we eat unhealthful foods like raw vegetables, we are weakening our immune system. And now there's another article that states that cooking carrots are more nutritious when they're cooked than raw. And that article came out in June of 2017. And then there's another article that I'm going to post, and then we're going to go on now to number 3. And number 3 is juicing of raw vegetables. And there's a document, I'm not sure if I did it yet, I can't remember all the videos I did, but it's called Why Not Juicing, and I also have it on my blog site. And here's the quote. It says in CD 105, you have educated the stomach to this kind of diet. This, your judgment has taught you, was the best because you realized the least disturbance from it. But this was not a correct experience. Your stomach was not receiving the vigor that it should from your food. Taken in a liquid state, your food would not give healthful vigor or tone to the system. But when you change this habit and eat more solids and less liquids, your stomach will feel disturbed. Notwithstanding this, you should not yield the point. You should educate your stomach to bear a more solid diet. And then Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 105, paragraph 2, says, so much liquid taken into the stomach was not healthful, and that all who subsisted on such a diet placed a great tax upon the kidneys, and so much watery substance debilitated the stomach. And I'll have a link below on that too. And besides this, guess what liquid cleanses the tissues, the body, better than anything else? What liquid do you think that is? Water. And we're told in Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 420, water is the best liquid possible to cleanse the tissues. Now, where did this idea of juicing raw vegetables come from anyway? Was it given to Sister White or what? Well, we're told in the Pioneer section, and E.J. Wagner again, he says, a Scotchman is launching a new form of vegetarianism in Paris. Its members eat and drink nothing but uncooked vegetables, foods, and natural liquids. So we're also told we're not to go to those not of our faith to get additional light on health. And Early Writings 124 says the different parties of professed Advent believers each have a little truth, but God has given all these truths to his children who are being prepared for the day of God. If God has any new light to communicate, he will let his chosen and beloved understand it without their going to have their minds enlightened by hearing those who are in darkness and error. Now, I know I quoted that quote earlier, but I'm repeating it again. Now, it is true many people do see benefit when they do this raw juicing of vegetables, but that's because it's a type of fast. They're not eating refined foods and fried foods and meat and dairy and sugar and all this other garbage. So the body's going to see benefits. However, science is showing that the drawbacks outweigh the benefits. And later we'll learn that raw vegetables, vegetable juicing, and the additional liquid injures the digestive system. And whatever injures the digestive system suppresses the immune system, because 70% of our immune system is in our digestive tract. And if you want to prevent cancer or fight or fight it, you need the best immune system possible. So anything that causes it problems in any way, we need to remove it. And we will be learning there are other things the prophet says that benefit people, but also is not good. So in the quote below, we're told that 90% of disease can be recovered if we follow what has been shown to Sister White. We want that 90% recovery rate. You know, the doctors don't even have that high of a recovery rate. They only have about 40, maybe to 50%. And so the Lord will lay some to sleep in sickness, because if they were healed, they would go back to their old ways and lose out on heaven. We want to do what Jesus showed the prophet, not what the world teaches. I know this is new for many of you, but please have faith. You know, I've worked with people and they're seeing great results without the use of raw vegetable juices. And remember, we have much to learn and much to unlearn again, we're told in early writings, page 67. So anyway, if juicing of vegetables was necessary for healing, God would have told us through the prophet. He would have given that information directly to his church, but he did not. It was a Scotchman from Paris, not even claiming to be a Christian, that came up with this information. If we aren't to go to those Sunday keepers who profess the second coming of Jesus, then we surely aren't to go to those who don't even profess Christ. So what about all these expensive juicers and people who don't have those type of appliances in their home? Well, Counsels on Diet and Foods on page 445 says there's danger in spending far too much money on machinery and appliances which the patients can never use in their home lessons. They should rather be taught how to regulate the diet so that the living machinery of the whole being will work in harmony. And then M again, 266, you cannot teach health reform unless you present the most inexpensive methods of living. The enemy must have no advantage in any line. So you see, these people who go and spend hundreds of dollars on all these this machinery and appliances, that's not beneficial because the poor can't afford it. And we're told the health message is supposed to be for the poor as well as for the rich. So another thing that people do is they fast for 40 days or 20 days or 21 days or 2 months or whatever they pick. And that's not good either. Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 189 says, all the fasting in the world will not take the place of simple trust in the word of God. Ask, he says, and ye shall receive. You are not called upon to fast 40 days. The Lord bore that fast for you in the wilderness of temptation. There would be no virtue in such a fast, but there is virtue in the blood of Christ. Amen. So we don't want to do all these many days of fasting. The most a person should fast would be probably for 2 days, 3 at the most. That's it. So what is required for proper healing? Well, Medical Ministry says nature will want some assistance to bring things to their proper condition, which may be found in the simplest remedies, especially in the use of nature's own furnished remedies. Pure air, and with a precious knowledge of how to breathe, pure water with the knowledge of how to apply it, plenty of sunlight in every room in the house if possible, and with an intelligent knowledge of what advantages are to be gained by its use. All these are powerful in their efficiency, and the patient who has obtained a knowledge of how to eat and dress healthfully may live for comfort, for peace, for health, and will not be prevailed upon to put his lips to drugs, which in the place of helping nature paralyzes her powers. If the sick and suffering will do only as well as they know in regard to living out the principles of health reform perseveringly, then they will then they will, in 9 cases out of 10, that's 90%, recover from their ailments. Second selected messages 288 says, we have been instructed that in our treatment of the sick, we should discard the use of drugs. There are simple herbs that can be used for the recovery of the sick, whose effect upon the system is very different from that of those drugs that poison the blood and endanger life. So anyway, that's my time for today. I hope that what you heard on here will be a blessing to you and your family. And until we meet again, may the good Lord bless and keep you. And remember, God loves you and he wants you to be in health. So eat that which is good.